Hello, everyone. I have Rain here. She has no idea what Bionic Commando is, nor what I said when I told her that there's a wife in the arm.
No.
So, she's going to learn strange things today, apparently.
I hope it's not as worse as Spotty.
Um, Platty says some weird ass things. I don't know. He's been streaming, but I'm usually asleep when he streams just because work has, like, tired me out to the point where I just can't. Okay, so self watch the stream video 50 times plus ultra. Oh my god, you don't have to do that. I just, I was just hoping that there were more people watching my gameplay videos, but meh, it happens. I put a lot of work in those videos, but if people don't watch them, it's fine, it happens. Anyway. Let's head into Bionic Commando by McFumbles, and yes, that is his name in this. Okay. What does it say? Time left until wife arm. What? Okay, he always does a Yu-Gi-Oh cards as a cutaway. Let's see. Oh, these are some of my favorite. The XYZ combiner cards.
As for the history of Bionic Commando,
Um,
there's not a lot. There are
Really?
only just enough Bionic Commando games to bust out that second hand for counting, and it's feeling mighty unnecessary. Bionic Commando started as the brainchild
has
of
a
game
timer.
design genius Takeru Fujiwara. This guy might not spring to your head like a Keiji Inafune or a Shinji Mikami.
I don't know
You have
any of those
This guy
names.
to thank for Resident Evil,
Oh!
Ghosts and Goblins, most Mega Man games, Demon's Crest, My Man,
I don't know Demon's
Strider,
Crest.
Goof Troop, Breath of Fire. His resume reads less like a body of work and more a who's who of Capcom's entire library.
Really?
He got his start at Konami, working on dozens, and by dozens I mean 2 arcade games, including Rocket
Of course.
which swam against the current of the current industry by being a platformer with no jump button. Yes,
Huh.
instead of putting those knees to good use, Rock and Rope tasked you with climbing a mountain with nothing but a harpoon and rope, shimmying up from platform to platform while blinding cavemen. The
Okay.
idea came from how Fujiwara had found that people had become too reliant on the jump button and wanted to test them with something else.
Interesting.
Now, son, you've been relying on that pencil to do your homework too much. Use this knife instead.
When you remember that this is the same sadist that made Ghosts and Goblins, it makes more sense. By the
Oh,
next year, he'd
Ghosts and
bounce to
Goblins is a
Capcom and
really
make
hard
something of
game.
an unintentional trilogy. The
It's
first of which
stupidly
was
hard.
Commando.
Oh, Commando.
3 out of 10 needs an adjective. This game was a
Needs an
trailblazer,
adjective.
planting the seeds for the run-and-gun genre that would take over arcades and becoming a massive hit.
Ooh.
Commando was one of the biggest earners both in arcades and on home consoles, and who knows how much more it could have made if not for its many imitators. Ikari
Ugh.
Warriors goes to prove that legally distinct doesn't always mean distinct. That
Yeah.
massive success, by the way, was created by a director split between 2 different projects.
Really?
That's right. Fujiwara had enough hate in his heart for this and Ghosts and Goblins in just 1
Ghosts
year.
and Goblins
The
just
following
throws
year
so
would see
much
the
stuff at you, you're
kinda,
like, how am I
sorta
surviving
follow
any
up
of
to
this?
Commando in the Speed
The answer,
Rumbler.
you're not.
Nicest way to put it, it's just more Commando.
Oh.
What's the connective tissue between these two? Well, that would be the main character, and he's not your average Joe, it's Super Joe!
What, really?
Well, at least he is in America. In Japan,
Oh.
these games are completely unrelated. But to capitalize on Commando's success in America, Capcom made the decision to say that it's the same guy in the car as it was in the trenches.
Really?
Probably shouldn't have waited till the manual to tell them that. With 2 successful games under his belt, it was time for Fujiwara to spread his wings by clipping
Alright.
R's. He wanted to make a more complete and fleshed out game based on his desire to ground all those rowdy kids with their fancy jump buttons. That would
Okay.
become Bionic Commando.
Oh.
That's what it was missing. Bionic Commando would put you back in the super shoes
Yeah, it
of
gives you a
Super
bionic
Joe,
arm.
in America at least, and have him fight through military bases on your way to stop an evil nation's evil plan. Which
Evil.
nation and what's their plan? Don't know, don't care. The
All
game
right.
is built to be super vertical as to account for your main movement option, your bionic arm. You can use it to
Okay.
grapple to platforms, knock back enemies, and grab power-ups on your way to the end of the level. That level
Is
will
that dude
also
just
be
throwing
jam-packed
barrels
with
or
enemies and
crates?
bullets coming every which way, all hungry to feast on your pocket change. Yeah, the 2 years since Ghosts and Goblins hasn't sated Fujiwara's hatred for his fellow man. Bionic Commando is tough as nails and wants your money. You never
Alright.
realize how much you miss shooting in 8 directions till you play a Capcom game. These guys pick a direction and stick with it.
God damn.
And
Hello,
the direction
Petra.
for Bionic Commando was up.
People
up,
are gonna
up.
force me to
The
play
game and its
Guilty
points
Gear.
would review fantastically. It would be a
I'm gonna
massive
force you to play
financial
Guilty Gear. I
success,
saw
and
you play the
wins
other
were
day.
over.
Oh my god.
Although not for arcades like Fujiwara was hoping. While the arcade industry in Japan was flourishing as it always had, Capcom couldn't ignore that thing that
kind of
Nintendo was
still
leaving
play
in
it, though.
people's living rooms. The
I
Famicom
don't
was cementing
know.
its place in the Japanese game.
Basically, I was like, okay, you know what? I can't escape this forever. Someone actually bought me the game for Christmas. So I guess I'll play it and have my friend who knows how to play it train me a bit.
I was the one who bought it for you.
I
You actually
forgot.
play it.
So I guess at some point we're gonna have a stream where Rain, Petra, and our friend Silent are here just yelling at me how I'm playing the game wrong.
Oh, don't worry. I suck at the game.
If I come playing with you, it can be. I can today. Oh my god.
Gaming ecosystem, and Capcom wanted to cut in, so divisions were created for work on arcade games and home consoles.
Okay.
With Fujiwara plopped
What
in the
game,
home console division.
Guilty Gear?
Well, he wasn't happy with the move because he was working on inferior
Consoles.
hardware.
Speaking of,
Fujiwara was
speaking
dead
of
set on
Guilty
making the
Gear,
best
there's a
of
movie
bad
coming out
situation.
soon, so
Instead of
probably.
simply
Oh yeah, there's an animated movie. I don't know which parts it'll cross over, but yeah.
The
know.
movie, the one in the game is not the official one, so.
Oh. Well then. We'll see how that goes. I hope it's good. Because movie games usually aren't good. But yeah, especially ones that get 3 DLC for good. Listen,
making a
I
port of
don't have
Bionic
any
Commando,
DLC,
He'd
okay?
make a full-blown sequel. While in America it was just known as Bionic Commando again, Japan would get the game as Hitler's Resurrection.
What?
Secret. Wait. You
We
brought
already
Hitler
have that.
back? In a first
Why?
for the series, you don't play as Super Joe, and instead play as Rad Nathan Spencer, who has to save Super Joe from the Nazis.
Spencers.
The game takes an open-ended level-based approach, with you able to go from zone to zone to complete them in whatever order you want. If you don't
Okay.
want to play level 4, you never gotta live your life however you want. Spencer has a few new moves compared to Super Joe, but don't worry, none of them are shooting in a different direction.
Why?
Now your bionic arm can swing, allowing you to cross gaps and remember what it
I
feels
know,
like to
you're
have
head over
actual
heels
control.
for them,
Listen,
Petra.
it's hard for me to learn these types of games. I went in expecting a platformer and I got a strategy game. You don't take a fish out of water and then blame him for not learning basketball, alright? It's hard to learn jumping. The strategy element goes further than just planning positioning, as the
Okay.
game includes segments where you have to prepare for levels with the right equipment, wiretap
Oh.
communication lines, visit
Wow.
villages, and even get into vanilla Commando-style shootouts. Even though the game had a lot of innovation and was quite technically impressive, it did quite poorly in
But
Japan. But in America...
Sorry, I'm typing this right here. But Petra, she already has a husband. It's the key. Also, I did like it better when she had red hair instead of green. With Ebib.
It would go on to become a classic NES game. Of course, that success was only after the game was gutted of all its Nazi imagery.
Of course.
Except for the Nazi imagery with all the guts. The game's Western
Yeah,
success would bring
understandable.
about a Game Boy reimagining a few years later, which increased the speed, added a password system, and
Oh.
made swinging feel a lot better. Overall, it's a weird situation where I'd say the Game Boy version is better than the NES version. After that game's release in 1992, we'd enter an era that historians refer to as the Dark Ages, but actually bad
Guilty
this
Gear.
time
Oh my
because we went
God.
a whole 8 years without a Bionic Commando game. I swear
What?
if this goes on for another year, I'm gonna break something. In the
So
year
would I.
2000, a new game would finally come out of a very unlikely source.
That
Bionic
is?
Commando Elite Forces was a game for the Game Boy Color
Huh.
not made by Capcom, but by Nintendo.
Oh my
in
God.
1998,
Petra's
Nintendo
talking to you in
created
chat,
Nintendo
Rain.
Software Technology Corporation. Aside from being a vague word soup that doesn't really mean anything, it was an
Yeah.
American branch of Nintendo that somehow was saddled with making the next Bionic Commando game.
Really?
This game dropped at a very interesting part of Nintendo and Capcom's history, as at the tail end of the Game Boy Color's lifespan and the start of the Game Boy Advanced, the two were constantly swapping spit. Nintendo would make
Really?
Bionic Commando, and Capcom would make The Legend of Zelda Oracle of Ages.
Oh.
And Seasons.
Oh.
And later on the Minish Caps.
Oh my
Super fair
God.
trade, I know. As for Bionic Commando, though, Elite Forces would be an even bigger improvement from the last game, with fluid sprite work, tighter controls,
Cool.
and a battery backup. At this rate, we'll have the best game ever by Bionic Commando 12. However, we'd have to wait
Commando
a full
12.
9 years before getting our Bionic Commando fix
9.
with Bionic Commando Rearmed. Developed by Swedish
Rearmed.
developers Grin in 2009
Yeah, it
for
doesn't look
Xbox
that
Live
bad.
Arcade, the PlayStation Store, and Steam, Bionic Commando Rearmed was a remake of the original Bionic Commando for NES. Despite being a pretty straightforward remake, it still manages to
original
polish
series
even
actually
more of what was
follows
done before.
Castlevania.
The controls
Understandable.
have never been tighter, swinging has never been easier, there's upgrades for both yourself and your weapons, tons of secrets, redone music. Rearmed is both a love letter to fans of the franchise and a great entry point for people like me who didn't necessarily care for the first game. I said it as a joke, but Bionic Commando really was improving with every subsequent game, and we wouldn't have to wait much longer for that next installment.
Really?
See, Rearmed was great and all, but this was just
PlayStation
to
version
wet the
does look
whistles of
clunky,
fans
though.
who had been starving for nearly a decade. This was just the lead-in to a AAA Bionic Commando reboot.
Alright.
Now, oftentimes people like to throw the blame for a game's failures at the feet of just one person, when rarely is that the case. What people see as one person's fault is more often the fault of a flawed development cycle that no one person's actions could have saved.
Really?
This isn't one of those times. We know
Oh.
exactly who to blame for this one.
Who is
Ben
it?
Judd. Ben
Oh.
Judd is the former head of globalization at Capcom and would
Oh.
preach the gospel of Bionic.
Oh yeah, this dude, he was all about Americanizing all the heroes and making them really edgy and trying to be more to life about them. It was not a good idea. Like at all.
Bionic Commando to anybody who wanted to listen. And even those that didn't. Eventually, Capcom higher-ups got sick of listening to him flap his hole and caved, giving him his precious Bionic Commando as a remake on the PSP. However, it would later get a spit and shine for the Xbox 360 and PS3 courtesy of Keiji Inafune. Capcom's Yuji Naka
Also, maybe I'll do Strive after. Dear God, calm down, Petra. Calm down.
The successes that Keiji Inafune had in the past put him in charge of Capcom's future, which he thought was bleak. While at the 2009
maybe.
Tokyo Game Show, Inafune, using Judd as a translator, said, "Everyone's making awful games. Japan is at least 5 years behind.
Is
Man,
it?
Japan is over. We're done. Our game industry is finished."
Not
Seeing
really.
the Japanese
Hey, killer.
games industry on a downturn, Inafune used his sway to swing Capcom towards the Western market and develop games with
It
a more
was a
Western
bad
influence in mind.
idea.
Would you also believe that 2009 is the start of Crapcom? There's more than enough to
Yeah.
go over in the future how Capcom messed up, so I'll be saving.
Don't get me wrong, Lost Planet 2 was a lot of fun. And so was, well, I didn't think I played. Was there a Lost Planet 3? I don't remember
talking
what a
about
big
that
one.
for another time. But on a personal note, I'd just like to say that the fastest and most fun way
I
to
love
lose
Lost
$10 is to try to buy Lost Planet 2 on Steam, because the
Yeah,
game,
doesn't.
it just doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
I tried for hours.
It's
and
mostly
hours
online.
to get past games for Windows Live, but it never worked. You said you were gonna fix it back in 2021, Capcom. Where's my Lost Planet 2?
I loved
Second
Lost
only
Planet
to their
2.
personal attack towards me in terms of failures was Inafune's westward expansion. The Western push got pushed right back at them because the games that came out
Were crap.
just weren't very good. Capcom had a style of making games that worked
It's
very
just-
well in the past.
they're
and
going
gave us
back
some
on
of the
that,
most beloved
thankfully.
games and
But some Japanese devs that moved to the United States as their HQ haven't learned. Sony.
franchises of all time.
It aged like
We all
milk.
got
Yes,
our
it did
Cyborg
age like
commemorative
milk.
cups, right? Dark Void, DMC,
Dark Void was alright.
Cry, Resident Evil 6, even the good
Resident
games
Evil
they
6,
made,
dear
Dead
God.
Rising is a glitch-riddled mess. Bionic Commando was just another branch adding fuel to the fire
Yep.
that was burning Capcom to the ground. And what's worse is that they were so sure it was gonna work.
I
They
know.
made comic books, action figures, lunch boxes.
Dear
Alright, you don't make
God.
a lunchbox for it if you're not certain it's gonna be a hit.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how many sandwiches it could store, though. Bionic Commando was a massive failure.
Yeah,
Bionic
DMC
Commando
was
2019
not
would be
good.
outsold
I
by
played it.
Rearmed 5 times over, with 2009 selling 27,000 copies in its first month, and Rearmed selling 130,000. What should we learn from this? I know, it's that people hate Bionic Commando. Now, despite having one pretty major talking point, rarely in the discussions surrounding this game is the game itself ever brought up. I know
Yeah.
a lot of people who know the thing from this game don't even know what the gameplay looks like. It's fine if you don't. It's
Yeah.
not going to put you at risk for any diseases, but I think what this game is deserves
It
to
still
be
looks pretty
discussed
good.
instead of just that one moment.
That one
Bionic
moment.
Commando starts off with our player character in jail for identity theft. The game
Oh.
says he's Rad Nathan Spencer from the last game, but I think it's lying.
Yeah, he
Boy,
looks
this
nothing
is a
like
bad
him.
redesign. I'm not gonna act like Spencer had an iconic design beforehand, but Irish Duke Nukem was way better than
Yeah.
this guy. He's got 2 tank tops on because he's cold, but not cold enough
Yeah.
to put on a real shirt. He's got the gormless look of a kid watching.
He's got
an ice
dreads
cream
for
truck
some
zip past him,
reason.
and just the shittiest white guy dreads you've ever seen.
Yeah.
On top of that is his voice. Now, after being safely relocated into Marvel vs. Capcom, Spencer would be voiced by Damon Clark. He's a powerhouse voice actor.
Oh, he did Handsome Jack. Huh. Nice. Have you seen? No, I have not seen the Fractured
Playing
Mind trailer. We'll
characters
look
like
at it
Handsome
later.
Jack and Perfect Cell.
No,
Oh,
you're
really?
in luck. You know, it just so happens finding birds is one of my specialties. This'll be fun.
However, in this
Well, I wasn't actually expecting him. But yeah, wow. Wasn't expecting that.
game, Spencer is voiced by Mike Patton. He's most well known for his roles in Falling to Pieces, A Small Victory, You Fat Bastards Live at Brixton Academy.
Never heard of these.
Wait, these aren't video games.
Yeah, they're
These
movies.
are songs.
Oh,
The
songs?
bands play. Yes,
What?
Mike Patton is the lead singer of the band
He's
Faith
Cell?
No More.
Seems like
and
it.
surprisingly, this isn't his only work in video games. He's done
Huh.
major voiceover work before as The Darkness in The Darkness. So
Wow.
he's not an amateur. In fact, I think he's quite good.
Darkness
I
was pretty
just
good.
don't think that Spencer was a good fit for him. He doesn't do a bad job all the time, but when the voice cast has Steve Bloom, Vanessa Marshall, and Robin Atkin Downs in it, you can feel that Mike is a little out of place. The place he's in right now is prison, because this game takes place 10 years after the original Bionic Commando. Spencer was thrown into jail after the public began to fear what Bionics were capable of, and had them all decommissioned. He may be down an arm, but he stayed jacked despite living off dust and the thought of water. He's
Yeah,
on his way to
the
go
thought
get
of water.
executed when a bomb goes off in the middle of Ascension City, set off by BioRain, a terrorist cell made up of villains from the first game.
Of
Your
course.
friend and mine, Super Joe, gets Spencer plucked off death row to come and handle BioRain. But
All right.
5 years in solitary
Super
confinement
Joe.
for a crime he didn't commit does not make the heart grow fonder. I like how they had to label this picture so everybody knew who the bad guys were.
What the fuck does this have to do with Emily?
Language! So in exchange for helping Super Joe
God.
with the invasion, we'll get information on where our missing wife is. My bet?
Bulk with air, I guess.
Spencer either
They need a
can't
lot of
believe
protein
it
to
or
keep muscle
doesn't
like
care in
that.
the slightest, but either way, they stuff him in a rocket and fire him at the problem. Instead of making one big rocket for Spencer and his arm, they decide to fire 2 with one of each.
That's
Well, no,
stupid.
This is just Commando. We scuttle our way through a destroyed
that's
building
incredibly
and get a
stupid.
handle on the shooting. It's fluid, fast, and more than enough to deal with the enemies ahead.
Okay.
What I can't deal with is motor mouth Spencer. Spencer's
Oh.
worried that if he ever shuts his trap, his heart might
Oh,
stop,
no.
so he never shuts up.
He's one of those characters that we now have nowadays that never shut up. This is the thing a lot of the time nowadays that we wish we never had. Like, you have to have some level of charisma for that to work. And it's obviously clear he doesn't have that.
On the way to find our bionic arm, we can also find collectibles to unlock something.
Something?
Someday a brave soul will find out what it is, but it's not me and it's not today. After a quick conk, we get our bionic arm back and some memories to go
Okay.
along with it. No, Spencer, keep hitting him with the right arm. That's the ticket. Getting the arm back sends us into a tutorial to show us how swinging works, and weirdly, has us playing as classic Spencer.
Yeah.
So it's the same guy, he just looks nothing like he used to. That
Weird.
can only mean one thing. Spencer did his own braids. He had 5 years to experiment. After that, we're sent out into
5
the
years
world
to
to start
experiment.
our mission and get to test out our swinging in a more open environment.
Hooray.
And you know what? For being the main selling
very
point of the
generic.
game and what you're going to be doing for 90% of the time, they nailed it.
Swing it.
They did a fantastic job. Swinging
Oh.
around in this game is incredibly natural and free-flowing.
Like Spider-Man.
Spencer has a great weight to him, chaining swings is fun, and most levels are built with
There
the
we
swinging
go.
in mind.
Not generic now.
There's no but or except for. No, from the beginning to the end of the game, it does its main gimmick extremely
Nice.
well. Of course, the
I
problem
miss
does
prototype
come in
games.
when you see
So
how
do
the game
I.
structures
I miss
itself.
the prototype
What
games.
should be wide-open levels are instead little sandboxes that are connected, but with a loading screen in between. And those sandboxes themselves are super cramped because the slightest veering off course sends you into a miasma of radiation, which disables your grappling hook and quickly kills you.
Oh.
They made a super fun movement option and then decided
Restricted
to
it.
railroad you as much as they could. Could this be the result of developing 3 games at the same time?
Yes.
Oh yeah, keep thinking that. What's
Oh.
next? Filing 3 tax returns is why I'm getting audited? Once we move on to the next area, we get a little taste for how to use the arm in combat, like grappling onto
cool.
enemies and flinging yourself at them for a kick, or you could just punch them. Doing a backflip off a guy's face and shooting him in midair should get old, but God, it doesn't.
Yeah,
you clear
that's-
out zones for good by hacking into these big data pods. Boy,
Of course it doesn't
that's
get
a
'em.
lot of words I do not care about.
Yeah.
Wormy Squirmington, you want to read all that?
Or me.
No?
Good.
Me either. Want to get back to swinging and shooting? Ah, that's why they call you the brains. Later on, we hack into a data pod which disables these floating mines for us to swing on. Don't get
Right.
your fill of them yet, they never go away. Just a few swings away and we get the death from above ability.
Oh.
You mash the button while in the air to slam the ground and send grunts flying. You
What
had to
is-
remember you could
what
do
is
that.
Wi-Fi
we then get
arm?
an
I don't
incoming call
know.
from Defense Secretary Armstrong. Don't get excited. To
Don't
check how
get
the mission's
excited.
going. He calls us a few times throughout the game to remind us what a
Oh.
bitch tornado we are, but it's kind of the same thing every time, so just imagine a really angry mustache and you'll get the gist. After
Okay.
mowing down a few more mooks, you square off with some heavy mechs that are only
Cool.
vulnerable behind their massive shields. You can shoot them in the back, or the much better option, chain grapple kicks to keep them on the ground until they die. I kinda
Oh.
wish all the enemies were like this, having to position yourself for an advantage. Has more of that classic Bionic Commando pick
Seems
your
a lot
shots
better.
feeling than the rest of the game has. Alrighty now, Spencer has to go find a crashed helicopter and collect some missing data. The area coming up is made up
What?
of snipers and flooded streets, and we found the second downside to having a robot arm. First
That
my
is?
wife goes missing, now I can't take a bath.
Oh.
Spencer sinks like a stone, so you gotta make sure that you stay up on top of the rooftops, but move fast enough to not get hit by snipers. The section
Oh,
after
nice.
that in a factory has
Good bit of
plenty of
challenge.
pipes to swing off of and plenty of snipers to kick into oblivion. Remember, kids, as soon as you become a sniper, you sacrifice all human rights. Spencer, look out. There's radiation, but only above the building.
There's a jackal
How much do you
sniper
think
section.
these guys weigh if I can zip to them instead of pulling them to me? We're about 40 minutes into the game now, and you may have noticed that nothing's changed. If you
Yeah.
don't like swinging and shooting, you're in for a hellish 4 hours. Luckily,
Well,
the
I
game
mean, it's
could
the
feel
main
us
gameplay loop.
flatlining and gave us a hearty helping of this guy.
Alright.
I got him. After
Okay.
taking out the rest of the flying grunts, we zip across some sunken cars all the way to a vantage point where we see the leader of BioRain Groder, a masked man, and their giant crab fortress. Before we get a chance to tell them how dumb it looks, another Bionic Commando named Mag sneaks up on us. Mag is introduced in the tie-in Bionic Commando comic book, and I
Okay.
shirked way too many summer reading projects to start reading now.
Oh, what?
She's an evil Bionic Commando with evil bionic legs, and I mean
Bionic
this,
legs?
she is punked out in every scene she's in. Take this
What?
scene, for instance. Despite having a gun to Spencer's head for a year and a half, she can't shoot him before a sniper blows the gun out of her hand and she runs off.
How many
my
people
God.
would have ended up in wheelchairs because some government fearmonger is afraid of a new technology?
You deserve a chair, Mag! But the one I'm thinking of doesn't have wheels.
Well, that doesn't narrow it
Oh.
down very much. A lot of chairs don't have wheels. I never found a hole I didn't want to jump in, so we descend into the depths of the underground.
Okay.
Somehow a major city could be built on top of a miles-long cave system. Down in
I
the
don't
fissure,
know.
we find a door that can only be opened with the purple matrix from Bionic Commando Rearmed. Don't be stupid. Bionic Commando Rearmed was just a video game. This is real life. To get through some cave walls, we have to use a new ability, where Spencer whips something into the air
Oh,
before
cool.
throwing it. This is my new fighting style. I can't really describe the satisfaction of whipping enemies at each other, other than it's completely changed how I play the game. The game does a
Understandable.
really good job at using the Bionic arm in a lot of ways. It's not just a great mobility tool, but great for combat. We fight a bunch more flying goons on wrecked skyscrapers and throw cars at grounded goons on our way to our objective. Once we get to the top of the military building, we get our first major boss fight against a helicopter. You gotta give this game credit, it doesn't glamorize the work that helicopters do. This fight sucks. You can only damage the chopper with a rocket launcher, so points off for realism. I should be able to use a pistol, but the real issue is how after the first hit, you have to launch 3 rockets at once, otherwise the chopper uses flares to divert your rockets. But the rocket launcher only has 4 rockets, so you only have one chance to hit the chopper before you need a new gun. And it takes about 20 seconds between running out of ammo and a new gun arriving, which is time that the chopper gets to gun you down. After you hit it for the second time, a bunch of flying mooks come in too, which means now you gotta take them down, wasting even more rockets and more time.
Wonderful.
And this isn't even accounting for the times where you just flat out miss. At first I thought it was a neat fight, but the longer it went on, the more and more it tested patience instead of skill. And it's just a regular helicopter. It should get a bionic arm too. We're back underground and trying to find a new building, this one housing military research for a project called Vulture. We're traveling through some sunken subways and fighting off powered-up heavies, all while being taunted by Groder. Whoever's playing Groder seems to think that a German accent is just putting emphasis on the wrong words. The difficulty also takes an uptick, as now you have to fight off 3 heavy grunts at the same time with limited space to work with. Pretty soon you make it to a war memorial with a statue of the real Nathan Spencer. What I wouldn't give for a level in a barber shop. While we're busy remembering the Alamo, Mag drops in and tries to get the drop on us.
Again?
You're wrong about me, Spencer. I'm not a killer.
I said that like 3 hours ago. You're still hung up on it? This starts maybe the best boss fight in the whole game, as all you have
Commando
to do to beat it is finish the cutscene.
What? Oh my god! Really?
By the way, that's people you're breathing.
What?
What's
that
fuck
mean?
are you talking about? That's people you're breathing. I'm gonna be stuck on that for the rest of the week. That means
I guess because
nothing.
we're in
We
the
make our way
ashes
through
of a dead
combination
city.
shopping mall museum
I
on the
don't
way to our
know.
next objective. But before we can get there, we get a mysterious transmission telling us that things are not as they seem. Why, that's just vague enough that it'll be true no matter what. A quick skip down the road later, and we make it to the building we've been looking for with all the military research. Before we can access it, though, the building is attacked by waves and waves of enemies.
Okay.
The building itself is cramped, so you're gonna need to stand your ground and fight a lot more than usual, though nothing is stopping you from just throwing them all back where they came from. Once you're done dealing with them, you get the data and have to evacuate the city. Oh, a handy escape tunnel. Just gotta swing on over and we'll be home free.
Okay, giant worm boss. Make a worm.
This seems unfair. All right, time for the next boss fight against this giant worm.
Yeah.
Spencer, there's no way out. You'll just have to fuck it.
Sir,
What?
It would be an honor to
What?
fuck that worm for these United States.
What the hell am I watching? I know. I hate it when people remind me that constantly. Anyway, I know I screw up in that, but you guys don't have to constantly remind me every once in a while. Anyway, I'm just laughing at this. What the hell is the sound of it? I don't think Rain's even here anymore. I think she's gone to another plane of existence. Either that or she's drawing or fell asleep. Honestly, she probably needs more.
What?
There he is.
What?
Sorry, you're in another plane. You're in another plane of existence. Sorry. Just pushes her down.
How dare you?
Anyway, we're
How
flying.
dare you? How dare you try to talk shit about me while I'm here?
You didn't even know what I said.
This boss fight is
I heard
way
my
ahead
name.
of the helicopter. Having
That's
you
all
use
you
it all in
heard.
unique ways, actually letting you do cool things to fight it, it's a lot of fun.
Cool.
This feels just like something out of Metal Gear Rising and showcases what this game does best. After that's done, we go back underground through some more tunnels and take on a grunt with a massive
Okay.
laser cannon, which is great for him, but better for me. I better have an excuse to use this later or I'm gonna kick my ass! Once
Yeah.
we finally resurface, it's the final stop before we get to the extraction point, and the game
Alright.
throws everything at you. New flying grunts with shockwave attacks, swinging challenges with less room for error,
Oh.
and larger and larger groups of enemies.
Alright, not
One
bad
thing this
idea.
section doesn't have a
I'm
lot
glad the
of
game is fun, though.
checkpoints. You've
I
got to
didn't
be on
think
your
it
A
was
game
going
to
to be.
survive to the end, but even if you replay a section a few times, they're at least fun to go through. You have to
Nice.
get past a lot of heavy grunts, but with more mobility than you've ever had before, so you have a lot of angles of attack. You can
Nice.
swing underneath them, grapple onto them, throw other
As long as
grunts
the
at
game is
them.
fun,
You
it
can
doesn't
always
really matter what
experiment with how
else.
best to handle the situation thanks to all the tools you have with your arm. Don't get me wrong though, losing in a game makes me want to cry, but the blow
Oh.
is softened somewhat. When we finally get to the drop point, Super Joe is there to greet us, but
Okay.
it turns out he's not so super after all.
What?
Almost.
What?
You son of a bitch!
What is this? Remember the mask guy? The guy who
Yeah.
shows up once and then never again? You'd have never guessed! Grab him, grab him, grab him,
Grab him,
You have a
grab
robo
him.
arm.
Yeah.
Grab him.
What the fuck?
So Spencer gets
She just cold cocks her out of nowhere. She's a Spencer and cold cocks the hell of that woman. I don't know why, but that always makes me laugh and stuff. Where you just suddenly see someone get cold cocked in the face. Just slam right in the face out of nowhere. This is gender equality in some form of way. I don't even know what Rain's doing
double
right now.
the trade, which I think cancels out and means everybody's my friend again. We managed
Wow,
to
what
survive
do you
by
want
grappling
to
onto one of
do?
the helicopters
I
and
don't
get
know.
whisked off back to BioRain HQ.
I just
And
didn't know
I
what
you were
there have
doing.
been some
Oh.
parts where it seemed like the game was really
Alright, we didn't know.
samey and repetitive and, dare I say, boring.
You don't have
but
to know.
this next
Oh my
section,
God.
it's so cool. You gotta use your
Oh.
bionic arm to steer helicopters into each
Cool.
other as you make your way further and further up the line. You have to shoot at enemies swarming you on hover bikes, keep from slipping off the back, and even use the helicopters themselves to smash into enemies you can't shoot. I loved this part. It was some of the most fun in the entire game. God, do I wish they didn't make Terminator Salvation so they could make more of this. Honestly, I'm
Terminator
glad it only went
Salvation
on for
wasn't
3
that
minutes.
great.
Otherwise, it would have made the rest of the game look bad.
I
We
fulfilled
catch
my
up to Trader
destiny.
Joe's
What is it?
helicopter and get a chance to kill him.
Okay. Trader Joe.
He doesn't have her on him right now. Just throw him out of the helicopter.
Yeah.
Mags are most useful when used as a projectile, which sends herself and Spencer plummeting back down to the ground.
Of course.
Luckily, they aren't supposed to die yet, so they survive and get patched up by this guy. Ready for the biggest twist in the game? This is Thomas Clark, the Player 3 character from Commando spin-off Mercs.
Really?
One person just fell out of their chair when they heard that. He's
One
mastered the power
person.
of rambling on without saying a single thing.
Oh,
Hopefully we get to
wow.
learn more about him in Bionic Commando 2. We climb out of the crater we fell into and go after Groder and his battle crab, and to do that we gotta destroy its 3 generators. They're gonna regret making this thing open air. We depower the entire thing just in time to catch up with Groder, who uses the miracle of cyborg enhancements to grow
Okay.
about 12 inches.
Oh.
For this fight, he's all but bulletproof. The only way to hurt him is to launch yourself into his back when he misses an attack. If he hits you, you have no way of counterattacking, so it's best to position your arm in a way that gets you out of trouble quickly. As the fight goes on, he starts laying the Nazi on real thick.
Okay. Oh my god. Really?
As the fight goes on, he tries to distract you with drones that will pepper you with shots
Oh.
if you aren't paying attention, and make the range of his slam attack
Oh,
even
that
wider, so you
explained.
can't
Yes,
even
it
stand on the
did. What the
platform when he
hell?
does it. And if that doesn't land, he'll just Ignore that you dodged him and hit you anyway. Once you beat him down enough, he'll attempt to escape, but Spencer puts a stop to that. Spencer shows how he's grown over this adventure by holding off on a one-liner, despite the fact that there's an ample amount that apply to this situation. With Carter dead and his Crab D shelled, the only loose end left is Joe, but he's already made it to an underground lab with everything he needs to activate Project Vulture.
Which
Down
I don't
in the
know what
vault,
it is.
Spencer finds the room we keep flashing back to and makes a shocking discovery. The military took his missing wife and turned her into his robotic arm.
Okay, Rain, did you hear that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the big thing everyone remembers around this game.
I'm going to start talking about the wife arm.
So
I
he
don't
kills
know
his
when I'll
wife.
stop.
No, the military killed his wife and put her in his robotic arm.
Yeah. Brutal. Gory.
I don't understand how that works.
You'll all be gone, and I'll still be in this chair, looking at this screen, all alone.
I have a
silently
question
wondering,
though, but it might be inappropriate.
No, he didn't do that with his arm. It's robotic.
You know. What's with that? Oh no.
I know where your mind was going.
And this is Chrono's fault, okay?
How is it Chrono's fault? He's not even here.
We always ask that kind of question whenever he's here.
Oh my god.
Why did they turn his wife into a bionic arm?
Why?
In the words of Mario himself.
Yeah.
I'm so tired. Okay, so what do you mean his wife is a bionic arm?
Yeah, what does
Well,
that
the game
mean?
tries to explain the mess it made by saying the arm needs a stable connection to the user in order to function properly, and the best connection Spencer had was with his wife, so they used her to make the bionic arm.
What?
What does that mean? Does that mean that her brain is in it? Is it
Yeah.
like her spirit? It's
What's
in
going
the
on?
arm?
Jeez.
Did they shrink her down so she can run around inside the arm and
Yeah, what
control
the
it
hell?
like the
What does that
2008
mean?
movie Meet Dave starring Eddie Murphy? It's hard to know what they mean when people say they turned his wife into a bionic arm because
Yeah.
the game doesn't explain what that means either. It just says that Spencer's wife is the catalyst for his arm, but that doesn't mean
tell us
anything.
anything.
The reason they don't explain what that means is because we're about 3 hallways from the end of the game. There's only about 15 minutes left before
What
they
does
roll
that
credits.
mean?
They waited till the last second to drop this bowling ball on our foot, and now we just gotta live with it. Look at how this is the only thing people talk about when they mention this game. You'd assume
Yeah.
it's the only thing they talk about. Like every conversation starts with, "Hey, Spencer, how's your bionic arm?" which is also your wife. But no, it's just tossed in at the tail end with no explanation.
Yeah.
The reason this is the only thing that people talk about with this game isn't just because it's stupid,
Yeah,
it is, but because
is.
it's the only thing from this game that's worth bringing up.
Oh.
The rest of the game from a visual standpoint is dull, and Spencer
Yeah.
himself is so without charm that there's nothing else to say except, "Hey, remember the wife arm? Of course you remember the wife arm, because it's the dumbest twist you could have ever made."
It really
I get
is.
what they were going for. Aw, your wife wasn't missing. She
was
was
with
you
you all
entire
the time.
But there has to be a better way than the same arm you murder people with is also
Yeah.
your wife. Why not say that she was the lady who built Spencer's arm and she died while making it? Why
Yeah.
not say she left a trinket in the arm for him to find? Just because I see what you were going for doesn't mean I
Yeah.
agree with you. There were so many different ways to get the message across without going as ham-fisted as you could by literally making his wife the arm.
I mean,
And
if,
like I
if the wife is on the arm, doesn't that mean he also connected to his own nerves?
I don't know. It's confusing. We're not even sure how much of her is in there or how she's in there. It's weird.
I mean, if it's connected to the nerves, she can recall the memory in his brain. I'm breaking down the signs. It doesn't make sense.
None of it makes sense. It never did.
said, the game pretty much ends right after they introduce the wife arm, so you don't get to know anything about what it means. You barrel down a few hallways, kill a few more soldiers, and finally make it to Super Joe. Mag makes up for not getting her shit pushed in the last cutscene by getting killed in this one, which gives Spencer a big enough yell to finally break through a single sheet of glass. Spencer attempts to throw himself off a high enough platform to get out of the story, but is dragged all the way back up by these bird robots, which I guess is Project Vulture. Didn't they put Spencer in hole prison because they couldn't control Bionics? And their backup plan was an army of Bionics. Spencer catches up to Super Joe and tries his hardest to make sense of what's going on, but Joe seems busy.
It's okay. I'll always be by your side.
You know what? I'm not done yet. How long has Spencer's wife been his arm?
Yeah.
Spencer was the main character of the original NES Bionic Commando as well as rearmed. So did he have a wife arm in those games too, or did he get a new arm with brand new wife-based augmentation?
Yeah, what the hell?
Spencer uses his iconic bionic forehead to finish off Super Joe and disable Project Vulture. Spencer falls back down to the earth below, destined to leave a big stain and only his stupid haircut for anybody to bury. At the end of the credits for being such a good boy, we get a few Morse code messages. Oh, thank God I have subtitles turned on. The last message has to be translated from Morse code into German and then into English to tell us that since Vulture was destroyed, it's time to go forward with Project Albatross. Ooh, that's the thing from the other games! And after getting booted back to the main menu, that's the end of Bionic Commando. What a game. I don't think any game I've ever played has had such an even split of great mechanics and terrible design features. Swinging is really, really good. When you're able to get out in the open and swing around, it feels just as good as something like Spider-Man 2. They managed to make a movement system that carries exploration through a cramped corridor of a world. You're interrupted from reaching your full potential by cramped environments, either low ceilings or tight walls, or by radiation that takes what looks like a sprawling world and railroads it. But
I feel like someone in the boardroom said wife arm and then wrote the story while being high. That's possible.
Moving around in that cramped world is still really, really fun, and so is the combat. Gunplay is quick and effective, but the star is your arm. Punching enemies into the air, throwing cars, hurling yourself at them like a cat. I don't know any other game with this exact sort of combat, and I wish there was more of it. It's also got good enemy design, with plenty of mooks to mow through, but also larger enemies that need real thought to take out. But the world that all those positives are in is so boring. I don't care about anything going on because nothing interesting happens. It's just your standard 7th generation gray and brown shooter with an amazing gimmick tied to a wet sock of a main character. Spencer is terrible in this game. If he's not shouting about his wife, he's laughing like a psychopath or swearing like a kid who just found out which F word is the bad one. The game's most interesting part isn't interesting because it's good. It's a shame that the wife arm is all that people care to mention from this game because truly, I think there's something here. It's clearly head and shoulders above all the other edgy 2000s reboots I've played, and I'd even say I'd recommend it if you're interested in what you've seen. I'm sorry you can't discover the wife arm blind for yourself, but perhaps I didn't bring up that Mag has husband legs. The Bionic Commando has never really recovered from the hole it got into with this game. Capcom tried to patch up the wounds by making a sequel to Rearmed, which tried to make things better by giving Spencer a mustache. Great start. It mostly ignores what happened in the 2009 game, and even has characters like Mag and Super Joe reappearing right as rain, but it wasn't enough. Spencer made his court-ordered appearances in Marvel vs. Capcom games, even getting a level 3 based on the 2009 game. But if we consider being in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite as a good thing, we're in real trouble. Capcom, as you may know, bounced back in a big way from its 2000s funk and is back in full swing as a developer.
Making good games now.
Does that mean that Nathan Spencer is going to swing back as well? I hope so.
Maybe.
But if he does, it won't be like this.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Here's the thing, I love these cards, and I wish there was a model kit of them. Right here. XYZ Dragon Cannon cards.
I don't know about you guys, but I could really go for an NVIDIA graphics card right about now.
What? It's kind of funny, considering NVIDIA has kind of lost most of their stock right now. Like, their stock is plummeting. So yeah, that's a thing. Anyway. If you like what I'm doing, please do consider following, consider checking out the other stuff. And we'll see you all later. Like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more of this, but you know. Time to eat a NVIDIA graphics card. No! We're not eating an NVIDIA graphics card. That's a terrible idea. In all kinds of ways.
Why don't you want to eat it?
I don't know, I need a better graphics card.
I mean, didn't the new one just came out?
Did it?
It did.
Maybe it
Like
did.
50-40, was it?
I think it did, actually. We'll check it out at some point, but, yeah. Anyway, we'll see you all later. Have fun, guys. And take care of yourselves. Yeah, like I told Karth that he is a Digimon playing Digimon. Good job. Anyway, thank you all so much. And we'll see you later.